Hi all, this is Anita and my presentation is about a case study that I conducted as part of this class tip 527 on the accessibility challenges faced by middle school students with visual impairments. So because I'm talking about accessibility, I made the slides completely accessible for anybody with visual impairments. So I do have a slide transcripts that is describing all the images that is presented on the screen, as well as the text that is there. So a screen reader can read the slides. So there are two images on the slide. Image one is on a man on a wheelchair with his hands on his head. He's looking at some stairs without ramps in front of him. And there's another image. There are three small pictures. A blind person with a cane is holding a phone in his hand and listening to it. A person sitting on a wheelchair with a tablet, phone and some switches placed on a table near that person. A blind woman is smiling. The idea about this slide is similar to a building lacking a ramp or elevator in a physical environment. Inaccessibility of any part of a digital environment has just as many or perhaps more serious implications. So according to a study conducted by Fitchin et al., accessibility of websites, course management systems, digital videos, and audio were reported as the key issues faced by 223 students with disabilities from Canadian colleges and universities. And there's a descriptive phenomenological study conducted by Heindel in 2014 that explored the experiences of higher education students with disabilities in the United States of America. Suggests that more training for instructors is needed on how to work with students with disabilities. While Fichten and Heindel talked about students with disabilities in general, Mwanguzi and Lin 2010 examined the challenges faced specifically by individuals with VI when they use and access online learning environments. Based on the results of that study, students who are blind experienced several accessibility and usability challenges with Blackboard, which was the course management system used earlier, which impeded their academic success. There's a more recent heuristic study that was conducted by Park et al. In 2019 to identify the needs and barriers that learners with VI face when learning with mobile devices in massive open online courses, MOOC. Results of their study also indicated that serious accessibility issues exist in MOOC platforms, preventing learners with VI from fully participating in learning activities. So before we go into the investigation questions, I wanted to define access technology. Access technology will include technologies that enable students with both mild, moderate, and significant disabilities access the general or special education curriculum. Such technologies could be mainstream products used by all students, like a laptop with built-in accessibility features or iPad, or it can be assistive technologies used to meet students' specific needs. So the investigation questions are: what are the accessibility challenges in a school day as perceived by middle school students with VI? And how do middle school students with VI navigate accessibility challenges they face during their school day? So I've been observing a student, let's call her Annie. She's in 6th grade and is enrolled in a public middle school. Annie has light perception in just one eye with an acuity of 2400 or worse. What this means is what a sighted individual with 20/20 sees at 400 feet, Annie needs to get as close as 20 feet to see the details of the same target. Apart from being close to blind, Annie also has an additional social emotional disability due to her anxiety. Annie is constantly worried that she might get her answers wrong and she will be in trouble. Annie is a dual learner. This means she is learning both print and Braille. Due to visual fatigue issues and her progressive visual condition, she uses her hands to read text with Braille. She's an excellent Braille reader. Annie uses many technology tools for access. Amongst the assistive technology device that is specifically designed for students who are blind or visually impaired, Annie uses a portable near and distance video magnifier which is shown here, a device where she can access the Google Classrooms of all her teachers. She can see materials kept under the magnifier, and she can see distant targets with a camera attached to her magnifier. And she uses a Braille Note Touch, a device called the Braille computer. She can send emails in Braille to her teachers. She can write in Braille and attach her writing and send it to her teachers. And finally, she can download and read books in Braille. So there are two images on this slide. Image 1 is a Braille Note Touch with Braille keys and a display screen with text in the main menu that says contacts, email, internet, word processor, planner, file manager, key files. Image 2 is a video magnifier with icons in a tablet and a camera attached to the device to access distant targets. Amongst the mainstream technology devices, Annie uses a touchscreen Chromebook and an iPad. So Annie's first period that I observed is resource with a teacher who's aware of Annie's challenges. So the teacher helps Annie navigate her anxiety by organizing her folders for the rest of the classes. She tells her what Annie is expected to complete. The resource class has only 5 students, and the small class helps Annie to be more focused and engaged. Annie uses her magnifier throughout the class to see what her resource teacher is showing in the smart board. Annie is also using a Braille book that was embossed a week earlier by her vision teacher. Annie's second period is choir. The class has about 45 students. Annie is standing in the front row to the left of the teacher. The teacher has a smart board, and the students are expected to read the notes shown on the smart board and sing along. Although Annie is standing's position is first row, she cannot see the board. Annie can see 77-point font at 10 inches from her eyes. So obviously she cannot read anything from the board that is 2 feet from her. Annie cannot see her magnifier device as there's no table and chair set up in the choir for her. The way Annie navigates this accessibility challenge is to use an iPad camera to see the notes. Annie did not want to stand right in front of the board. For some songs, Annie gets access to a personal copy of the lyrics she's singing, magnified at 77-point font by her vision teacher. And the final period that I observed is Annie's social studies. The class is about 30 students. Annie sets up her device so that she could see the board. The topic in the class was South America. The teacher showed a video which did not have closed caption or auditory description. Annie saw the video using her device, but even with the maximum magnification and the inability to see the whole video, Annie would have missed many visual details without audio description. After the video, Annie was asked to join a group of 3 other peers to complete a poster board on a teacher-specified prompt. The 3 peers started writing on the poster board in a very small font, and Annie was just standing next to her group, not able to read what they were writing and not able to understand what they were talking about. So the challenges that Annie faced during the first 3 periods of her day can be broadly categorized into 3 main areas: isolation of using equipments and devices for access, help in setting up devices and classes for access, and inaccessibility of the content presented to Annie in her classes. So the isolation of using equipments and devices for access. There are 3 images on the slide: a large bag with wheels, a white cane, and a student is raising his hands and is using a portable video magnifier to access a map shown by a teacher in front of the class. I realized how carrying all the devices in her huge suitcase itself must be an isolating experience for Annie. One way she navigates this experience is to pack and leave class slightly earlier than the rest of the kids so that she doesn't have to go through a crowded hallway. However, the solution doesn't work some days, especially on those days when the teacher gives her a collaborative assignment or a test. Annie needs to stay in class until the very last minute and transition to her next class in 3 minutes. One way to navigate this challenge is to have educational assistants or assigned peer helpers to help Annie carry the device between classes. Annie should also be taught to advocate for help carrying her devices in the absence of peer helpers or EAs. Although advocacy is a hard skill to master, Annie's IEP goals should include a self-determination goal to help her to advocate for her need without being anxious throughout her day. There are 2 images on the next slide, which is image 1 is there are about 12 young students standing and singing, seeing their notes that they're holding. And there's another image, a student is using a portable video magnifier by reading the magnified print that is on the display screen. Oftentimes, general education teachers tend to expect students to complete several different activities in one class period, making the pace of the class super fast for students like Annie. Setting up a table and chair in choir, even though other students are standing, can be useful for Annie to place her distance camera to look at the projector. However, setting up the device takes a few minutes and the teacher should be willing to wait that time. Another way to navigate this challenge is for Annie to get access to the audio recordings of the songs before her peers, so that Annie is familiar with the songs in class and can sing along. And the final challenge category is the accessibility of classroom content. So amongst all the accessibility challenges faced by Annie, this is by far the biggest that she will continue facing in her secondary schools. There is an image on the screen. There are 5 circles around a central circle with the text accessibility. The 5 circles represent a particular modality in which content space should be made accessible. Wheelchair access, braille access, magnification of print access, hearing access, sign language access, and closed captioning. So there are 2 main ways this challenge can be addressed. Use of universally accessible mainstream technology, that is describing YouTube videos using YouDescribe, touchscreen devices that have built-in accessibility features, including screen readers, and then providing materials for visual nature to be adapted 2 weeks prior to being presented in class. Annie should have access to braille and tactile materials at the same time as her sighted peers have access to visual materials in class. The final takeaway notes: digital environment in classrooms should provide multimodal access irrespective of whether there are students with disabilities or not. Being aware of accessibility of physical and digital environments is key to inclusive education. Students with and without disabilities should eventually shift from learning the technology to using the technology for learning. And these are my references. Thank you for giving all the wonderful comments. I really appreciate it. Have a wonderful rest of the semester. Thank you. Bye-bye.